Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Academy. My name is still TJ, and we are into another exciting game. For me, it's a little bit crazy because I'm into another game of TSM versus CLG. I was here last time for CLG upsetting, and now we get maybe a chance to reprise that. TSM are, of course, currently tied for first place here in Academy, which means that they've taken some steps down. Cloud9 Academy have gained ground, a couple of recent wins, their last 3 games, in fact, all inside their pocket to get them up to that 6-4 scoreline, tied at the top of the league. TSM have lost their last 2. That was FlyQuest Academy last week, Dignitas last night. Neither especially good looks. So TSM obviously want to put the pedal to the metal, keep themselves on top of the Academy, and more importantly, I think, stall out the loss streak. But CLG are arguably in an even dicier position. They're currently tied for 4th at 7-6, alongside 100 Thieves Academy and Evil Geniuses. Last night they lost to 100 Thieves Academy, who have been recently bolstered by the addition of Kenby, so they're not looking so hot either, and a loss at that low on the leaderboard in Week 7 means a lot more than a loss does to TSM. They're still looking good for playoffs as is. I think they'd like to reclaim some of the pace though. One of the big reasons why, at least in my opinion, TSM have been struggling is this bot lane support swap. Biofrost, of course, coming in. You'd think that would be a surefire win, given his experience, but Treats, who previously filled the role, was actually scouted for his leadership ability. TSM say that they brought on Treats specifically because of how good he was at communicating and leading in the team comms. So, when I look at the timeline, I see Treats leave this team and TSM Academy immediately become worse. It stands to reason that Treats was a big part of the communication on this team. So hopefully, they've had a couple of games now. TSM will be picking it back up here, restructuring how their in-game communication works to fill that hole. And if they can start to leverage the experience of Biofrost, frankly, it shouldn't be a downgrade. CLG are a kind of one-note team on the opposite side of the board. So if you wanted a game where the in-game communication can be really simple from moment one, this is it. CLG Academy want to boost Wind and Phil, they want to get that bot lane ahead, and they want to win the game through it. You're going to see a lot of focus on the early objectives, a lot of focus on the early Drakes, and it's all going to come down here from this bot lane. If we end up going to the late game, they do have the Jhin. This has been something they've been doing a lot of recently, putting Wind on the Jhin, in the theory that if you get to mid-late game, he starts to pop off and become a danger. I haven't been completely sold on it. It hasn't really functioned as an insurance policy. The other thing they've been trying to do to ensure their late game success is put Deus on more scaling champs. I've seen a lot of GP out of him recently. Today it is a Vladimir. So CLG have the late game insurance from both sides of the map. Decent team fighting in the mid game as well, but they don't normally win through that. Most of the time, if they win games, it comes from getting ahead early and keeping that momentum going. The second they start to stumble in the mid-game, their team fighting doesn't look the strongest compared to other teams in the leagues, compared to TSM at the top of the league. So you'll see that start to fall apart. Fragus is bringing a set jungle as well, which I have mixed feelings about. I'll hold those mixed feelings now, as our bot lane duel gets a little bit exciting. I'm not the biggest fan of Set jungle, and I know that it's an easy flex, and the power of Set is that you can lock him in as a first pick and he can go anywhere. That's what happened here in this draft. But when you're playing into somebody like Winston, who has at times been either, he's been a polar opposite. Either Winston is immediately out of the game, which we have seen a couple of times. He gets put up against good junglers and just gets knocked out. That's happened multiple times in cost TSM games. Or Winston quietly scales into mid lane and gets kind of scary. And into something like that, I would want Froggas to be on a little bit more clear-heavy champion, a little bit more aggressive champion than the Sam. As is, he's plenty aggressive. CLG's trademark focus on the early objectives will come through. Winston's in the area, Biofrost as well. And look at how low that Drake is. Still half HP, and Froggas even lower. Thinking about half HP himself, evolved off the TP. Will be here. And there's the dive. Phil goes in, equalizer already deployed. Winston knocked down to half HP. And it's first blood. No, a second as Tuesday cleans up Winston. Wind in the back lines did get chunked low, but Deus has chased down Biofrost in the meantime and will complete that kill as CLG grab the Drake. This is already disastrous for TSM. Dokla, there's no way he survives, and we're off to a bang. A complete ace in the bottom lane around the Drake. CLG's first objective fight goes beautifully for them. And that is par for the course. CLG always force early objectives. Most of the time, teams don't even fight them. I am astonished that TSM went for that. I understand why they thought they had a positive positioning fight there, but the sheer play style of CLG makes you know that there's going to be 5 members down bottom. TSM should have had the VOD review to know that there's going to be 5 members of CLG on that first Drake. So their TP there, bringing people into the lane, they know they're opting into a 5v5. That was an intentional choice by TSM. And I am astonished by it. There's bringing the fight to your enemies, and there's playing to their strengths. And that felt like a little bit of the latter. CLG off to a hell of a start as a result of it. Not 2 minutes ago, I said the win condition for CLG is to get ahead early. Here you go! Froggas, you know, throw out my earlier criticisms. If you get him a kill and 3 assists off the bat, he's going to clear just fine. Pressure just fine. Despite the slow Drake take, they get the Drake. They get 5 kills, 4 thrown over to Froggas in terms of gold. He'll dominate here, and he's back up to the top lane. Dokla, head smashed in, will blow the flash. Oh, and he's just suplexed out from behind the turret. Dokla's gone to a haymaker. Winston was in the area. Tuesday is waiting for him. This is a beautiful little gang setup. Evolved was nearby as well, and that gives Winston barely enough safety to get out, but he had to blow the flash for it, and he won't be contesting that Rift Herald. So this has actually started incredibly for CLG, and it'll keep getting better. Lost, narrowly surviving down bottom. There comes the curtain call. Biofrost should have the body blocks just fine. Lost does the time-honored tradition of standing perfectly still, letting Biofrost take the damage. Okay. So, a pause in CLG's aggression will come through off the back of that. We'll get these turret plates down bottom. I want to talk about what goes wrong for CLG, because this isn't actually too out of the ordinary. They don't normally get 5 kills in the first 7 minutes, but they do normally win early game quite heavily. And then, after getting the first Drake, oftentimes the first Rift Herald as well, games start to slip away. And oftentimes, it feels not so much like their team fighting itself is bad in the mid-game, but CLG have no confidence in their setups for team fighting. I don't know if that's a shot calling question, or maybe their shot calling is right, and their team fighting is struggling. But you'll see them go for these objective zoning plays. I was watching their game versus 100 Thieves. They were pushing for the Rift Herald. They had a 4v5 around the Rift Herald, and they just ran away from it because they got zoned a little bit, they got a little bit of poke onto them. And I would have thought it was a pretty easy fight for CLG to win. They had the intel on the map that they had a player advantage. And that's the sort of thing that has cost them games. A combination of bad team fights and really weird macro calls around the team fights come mid-game. So keep your eye on that, because it's TSM's only hope at this point. They do have the cast in the mid lane, of course. If we go hyper lane, that becomes a big problem for CLG. Biofrost and Lost do have a roam here from Winston. He'll arrive. Wind, all caught in the Tempered Fate. That should be a kill. And that's a big one too, as the true shot chunks them down. Wind ought to be dead. But he's not. Beautiful play from Phil. Always the star support from CLG. And there it was shown off. CLG get wind out of the bot lane somehow. Had full summoners, which helped. The heal very much keeping Wind alive there. And they get a turret in mid lane simultaneously. I was about to say that's a big kill to lock down. Because, of course, CLG play so heavily around Wind, around that bot lane. And then TSM don't manage to lock it down. The downside of Winston's Trundle, limited chase potential. Even with a beautiful Tempered Fate, solid pillar, nothing comes from it. Second Drake will come up. If you're curious how many Drakes CLG normally has around the 15-minute mark, I looked it up. It's 1. 1.08 to be precise, but nobody's going to call me on that. The implication of that is they always have lost control of the game by the time that second Drake comes up, or it regularly takes them long enough to take the first Drake that it's not up again by 15 minutes. Knowing CLG, that second isn't true, so it's usually the former. They rush the first Drake and then kind of lose control of the game before the second one comes up. So, keep your eye on this. CLG, second Drake's coming up, still in full control. Fragus and the rest of the team will lock down the Cloud Drake, and TSM, the first place TSM Academy, by the way, are now down 2 Drakes, a solid hefty chunk of gold, a turret, and complete control of their own jungle. I wouldn't have seen the game going this way. I thought we were in for a bit of a slugfest, to be honest, but we got to hit the gas pedal for CLG, and we haven't slowed down since. I heard some... Oh my god. Is he going to get another turret in the bot lane? Not quite. I've seen some feedback over the last couple of casts I've done. People are like, oh, TJ, your voice is so relaxing. Wake up! CLG are in huge trouble. That's a lie. They're in complete control, and I think that all of the kind of preparation in the world should have prepared you, which of course the TSM side has, should have prepared you for the game state where CLG are forcing objectives early. So I don't want to go back to my kind of hypothetical narrative that they're shot calling suffering from lacking traits, because that is kind of hypothetical, and I don't like to speculate too much on communications that I'm not privy to. I don't know what's going on inside the TSM comms or organization. Oh my god, flash in, a little bit mistimed, but Curtain Call will still come through with the equalizer as well. Absolutely dirty. Lost just gets shut down behind the turret. Full commitment from CLG. Their shot calling hasn't changed. I don't know precisely where it's coming from, but the CLG shot calling is always around executing plays like that in bottom. You very rarely see Fragus spend too much time up here with Deus. Most of the time, once we hit the 10-minute mark or so, he's constantly re-ganking that bot lane, powering up Wind and Phil as much as possible. And so far, so good for that game plan. Although I will note, Phil has a better KD than Wind. That's pretty normal, though. For early game, Phil's a monster. I was watching some of his Pantheon footage. He's playing exclusively things like Pantheon and Rakan, which is understandable if you have fast hands, I guess. And he's just actually the AD carry in those Pantheon games sometimes. No slight to Wind, who's terrifying in his own right. Wind, one of the best KDAs in Academy, 3.6 average kill participation of 72%. Problem is, Phil's got a 2.8 KDA. That's the support on CLG, which are, might I remind you, 7 and 6. Very, very good play from that bot lane. Here are the second Rift Herald kind of messes I was warning you about. CLG did get weirdly skittish around that, didn't want to force a fight. Instead, with the equalizer down, They know they can just bully in for the Rift Herald. No reason to take the full fight at a potential ultimate disadvantage. We talk a lot about the arrival of that Jhin. There is nobody in lane who could even hope to hold him now. I think that's worth noting. Lost is just out of this until 20 minutes. Oh, Winston. Fighting Deus will steal away the Grum. Minor victory for TSM in the jungle. Big round of applause for Winston. Phil, in the meantime, will be taking a turret up top alongside Wind, and they've got the full zone, so TSM will not be able to contest. So, with Lost out of the game, kind of the only viable path back into this, I see for TSM at least, is Evolved. Winston's not doing bad. I fretted at the beginning of the game that he occasionally gets blown out. We haven't really seen enough focus on him for that to be happening, and CLG don't usually play through Fragga, so I would have been surprised if we had. But Winston's doing alright. He's going to be kind of a mid-late game tank, be there to throw out some pillars. Nothing too shocking. But the damage has to come from Evolved. Because Dokla's 0 for 2. Biofrost isn't having, you know, rapid-fire Bard build or anything like that. Here comes the Drake, if you're curious what all this skirmish is about. CLG will be holding right alongside it as TSM prep for a possible contest. They have no vision. Do it Biofrost Tempered Fate though, which always excites me. Now they have vision. Control Ward did just slide in. And here they come. TSM for the Drake. There's the Tempered Fate. Bard ulti, excited. But Dokla's already caught out. He's completely split. He spends his own ultimate, and it's the showstopper right in. Fragga's full commits to a team fight, has to go into stasis, so it's Tuesday to clean up the kills, and he does alongside Deus, whose Hemo Plague is beautiful. The Drake's just been picked up very casually, whilst Biofrost and Winston are hunted down through the jungle. They will both fall. Biofrost will fall. I think Winston slipped away. Still an ongoing debate, but Wind can't seem to be bothered to chase him. And CLG at 17 minutes, CLG are at Drake Point. This will be a Mountain Soul, so not too remarkable, but certainly helpful. They have now 3 turrets across the map to 0. Maybe 4 if nobody bugs this Rift Tower, but I think Donkla will have it. 11 kills to 1. This is a manhandling of TSM. And it's hard to rate. I want to give CLG credit because they did execute their game plan extraordinarily well. But it's hard to unpack CLG's extraordinarily well executed early game from TSM's kind of bungled attempts at interfering with it. Because that level 1 fight that they took, I held my tongue at the time, but it didn't look great to me. And they didn't go for any other contests during the early game, kind of as you would have expected with this composition. They didn't... I was shocked that they went for that early game fight with this composition, and they seem to have adjusted back to my standards. So it wasn't like a set strategy of, we're gonna bully CLG during the early game. It was just a harebrained idea of, we're gonna fight this Drake 5v5. And oh my, did it go wrong. So the hero still, I think, has to be evolved. CLG are kind of hunting for him. Winston is functionally a support at this point, but he's also the most powerful member of TSM. Just Trundle, you know, different scaling. Set's jungle clear is out-clearing him at this point. Check out that 30 CS lead in the jungle over to Fragga. Deus isn't really in danger here. You might think he is, but that's just a trick of the Vladimir. A trick of the blood, as it were. His HP bar will be just fine. And Phil is back to his normal aggression. One of my favorite things to see from Phil is just how much vision he gets by literally just walking at people. Like, certainly has good warning vision, score great, whatever. But he's just Pantheon, just walking through the jungle, having a great time, seeing all the sights, peering out the side of the go-kart and all the safari animals. Finally, they will be zoned off, but not before Fragas has himself another camp. TSM struggling to maintain any control of this game. They'll go for a play now. That's a good tempered feint. Fragas is rotating up. This will be a 2-on-3 if they go for it. And oh my lord, they are. Equalizer's already deployed. Evolved has nothing left. The Haymaker will chunk him down. There's the suplex and the kill to Fragas off the back of the showstopper. And here comes the flank. Curtain call already deployed. Tuesday will be in trouble at the very front of this fight, but he's got the backup. Phil's there. Deus sinks into the Sanguine pool and scoops up the kills with the aid of Tuesday, and CLG win another fight in the top lane, again off the back of some brilliant play from Fragas. He has stepped up this game. I kind of had him as an afterthought in my prep because CLG, again, don't play for him. But after the early lead he got handed in that first fight, he has managed to be constantly positioned correctly across the map. Knowing that that top lane was in trouble, he's there as the Tempered Fate lands. He's able to chase down the most important kill in that fight, being Evolved. Just genuinely beautiful. Deus and Tuesday are doing a lot of the damage in these fights, but that's just doing their job, you know? When people are completely CC'd, it's really easy for Tuesday to land an equalizer on everyone. Those Rumble plays looking nasty in his own right. That was a long pause for a drink of tea. Just solo casting things. I'm drinking tea from my throat. I won't say the brand. It's got an Emily Dickinson quote on it, if you're curious how erudite I am. I think it's willow flavored. It was eucalyptus earlier, but we switched to willow for the game because we've got a bend, but not break, like TSM. Willow is famously a bendy wood, for those of you who are not woodworkers. I'm not either, but I took a workshop once, and I think it's rubbed off. Oh, there's Evolved. There's the bending, but not breaking. Tuesday, you do not win this fight at this game state. He might have the backup, but the curtain call can't hunt down Evolved. The equalizer does slow him down, and there's the connection. And Evolved might have stepped a little bit too far forward. The thumbs up emote as he backs away into certain death. Here comes Fragas. Oh, does some push-ups right outside the petrifying gaze. Oh my god. Just working out over here. Sorry you missed your attack. I was just getting these sick abs sorted out, says Fragas. Poor Evolved. Laughed at, mocked, and then killed with his turret destroyed. CLG dominating. 15-2. I don't think I've ever seen the set emote game like used productively. Don't get me wrong, when I'm playing set, I play support set because I'm filthy. But when I'm playing set, I obviously use that sit-up emote as often as I can. But the only tactical use I get out of it normally is that people like instantly want to run and come fight me. I've never had it save my life. I've had it get me killed a number of times. We do have a Baron up, which is what CLG are zoning for. TSM will start to drift that way. Oh, and Winston drifts right into a bush full of CLG members. Wasn't a very happy bush at all. Probably not made of willow, which is a nice relaxing tree. I assume my tea is made out of leaves or bark and not the actual tree. But I'll confess, until just now I had not really thought about it. Here comes the Baron. True shot steal attempt for LPL. Times. Won't come through. Well, that Baron should be scooped up rather easily. CLG don't want to commit to it though. They bait TSM in instead. Dopla's TP was spotted on ward. CLG played really cautious around these objectives. This was what I was talking about with their weird tank of Harold earlier. And frankly, you know, not to harken back to the LPL, but they're like losing stuff on the map now because of how long they've taken. That could have gotten really, really wild. I think at the end of the day, in this particular instance, just because of how much of a lead they have, it wasn't the worst thing, because they got a TP for nothing. But they're burning time, and they're burning objective time, right? That bot lane turret was picked up by TSM because they were taking the Baron, but they don't trade that now, because CLG cancelled their Baron tag. It's a little bit awkward. Back to base they go. The CLG will return. If they can just force a 5-5 team fight, this game's over at this point. But TSM are whining. They aren't at the top of the academy for nothing. As we're learning, academy teams are stiff competition. This has been the season of academy promotion. Every time we see a player or a team slip up the rankings and do really well, I feel like it's one of my children stepping into the wider world. CLG are still not doing this Baron. They're just going to run out of wards again and have to back. Biofrost is a ward dispenser in his own right. They are losing split lane to Evolved, who is all the way bottom. He's going to be pushing there, but he has a TP, so don't worry too much. Baron will begin again, hopefully for real this time. Winston and Biofrost are in the area, far stronger position than the last fight, so kind of backfire. Watch Deus there nearby. Winston poking in for vision. Did just spot, will get showstoppered. All the way into the front lines goes Bragas, and that should be the fight. CLG get a 5v3, Evolved up the TP, is the only member of that skirmish to survive. Him and Dokla were super split off. I was a little bit worried that Evolved's TP would get him killed. But he lives out his dreams. And CLG finally having taken some kills, feel comfortable with the Baron. They can let down their guard, relax into the warm baths of the Baron pit. Oh, and this synchronized 5-man recall. You don't see that every day. Normally, like, some people take a couple of steps and then hit the recall button. That was entirely in sync. And you know what? That's the difference. Team coordination. Even as CLG are making these really, like, frustratingly iffy calls around objectives, at least there is very clearly a voice making the shot call. TSM Academy haven't looked that purposeful this entire game. You could see that weird bush thing they were doing where they had like 3 people, Winston poking in for vision. I don't know what the plan was there. Like, what are you going to do if you do get vision of the attacking Baron? Maybe you keep 1 or 2 players there to threaten, but the rest of your team should have been doing something else. They couldn't have won a Baron fight in 1,000 years versus CLG at this point. But they don't do anything else. And now they are hiding behind their turrets with the Baron buff in the hand and 20 seconds on the Elder Drake. Dunkler will be poking. Oh, good Tempered Fate. That is both Wind and Phil knocked down. Will eat a true shot as well. And there's Phil gone. Nicely done. A very good combo out of TSM. And they'll try and make more out of it. Oh, good Magical Journey. Lost to Chase. Pillar slows down Tuesday. Tuesday's gone. Big trouble now for CLG. Despite everything, they may be losing this yet. Bragas will go in. It's the showstopper, followed by the curtain call. But they're not doing damage anymore. And this is going to be a free Elder to TSM. I do not believe it. After everything that CLG did to get to this point, TSM get a free kill off the Tempered Fate True Shot combo. And now, if they can get this Elder into something, if they can do something with this Elder, it can get them back into the game. The Elder by itself does not do that. As you can see, Deus is shoving down inhibitors. CLG across the map still do have control. But if they're not careful, TSM can use this Elder to force a fight. Use this Elder to get a couple of turrets. That'll pad their bank account. That will get them back into this game. that beautiful combo to find the first kill. Biofrost, Tempered Fate, and they had all the time in the world because of Tempered Fate to just be like, alright, lost, True Shot, into Evolve. They even had the Aurelia ulti as well from Dokla. Wasn't especially necessary, but once they got the kill, CLG just turned and ran. I don't know that they would have lost if they turned and fought aggressively. Tuesday didn't spend his equalizer in that fight, unless I'm mistaken. Wind hasn't had one fight where he's just been free casting autos in the backline. He's had a couple different fights where he's come in on the flank and done some serious damage, but I'm not seeing that front-to-back team fight because CLG never hold the front line in these team fights, and that was what I was going to dig at earlier when I was taking a bit of a slant at CLG's team fighting. Here comes Evolved baiting the rest of TSM in the murder bush. They've only gotten one turret with that Elder, making it not worth it. I mean, better than the alternatives, but there was a junior Drake, really. And I don't think they've really changed the game state that much. What they're more at risk to have done is actually change CLG's game state. If CLG and their aggression just vanishes after this point, then TSM are back in this game. Because they are now within striking distance. If they can extend this game a couple more minutes, TSM very much can still win this. And that wasn't what I was saying a couple of minutes ago. CLG do just need to wait till the Elder's gone, force the Baron in a minute 30, win the game. But I have zero faith they'll do that. They have a somewhat slow Baron take, they don't really like forcing fights near objectives, they get very nervous and you can tell. That means that TSM aren't looking half bad. I'm all out of tea, as does happen. In these 30-minute games, I have calculated over the last couple of days of casting League of Legends, I have about 30 minutes of tea in my cup. So we're over to water, chugging the good stuff. That is premium tap water right there. CLG with the full aggression across the map. Do still have that in him down in the top lane, which will help with this Baron coming up in 47 seconds. I'm trying to work out if you heard a weird pause. TSM were pinging going towards the bot lane, and I was trying to work out who they would send because they do have two different TPs. They have Dokla and Evolve both with TP up, and they're going to keep Evolved a little bit closer, a little bit safer because he has a bigger portion of their damage. Dokla hasn't really done much of anything in this game. Does have a GA now, curiously enough. That is a Rabadon's Vladimir on Deus. I don't know when that happened, I missed it. But worth noting as well, there's no shortage of money in the CLG bank accounts. Here we go, TP spent, CLG doing what I asked. Forcing this Baron on spawn. Here come TSM, do CLG cancel? Maybe. They're starting to get skittish. Winston's right on the other side of this wall. If he can TP in, this gets real scary. Or flash in, rather. He does have that. Flash over the wall. Winston's too early. He'll be caught out now. Tempered Fate just completely stole up that fight, though Winston can stay safe. He will get burned down into stasis. No HP. Baron does get stolen away. TSM grab it from the back of the fight. Tuesday will fall. That's a big pickup for TSM. CLG managed to escape with 3 players here, Wind and Phil. Right around the corner here. If Winston wants to fight this, he's so scared. He can disrupt these backs. They've got to just get somebody back, though, because the shove is coming through mid. Winston will go down. CLG can now back in safety. Or do they base race? I see the pings for it. Super minions are shoving. They'll back away. Super minions have bought them time. TSM have to retreat. That was lost from the back of the fight, stealing the Baron, by the way. It wasn't Winston with that much hyped fight. Like he flashed in way too early. Didn't even get to spend smite in that fight. The actual steal came from Lost somehow. Weaving through the midst of all that. And And that's kind of a bad sign for Fraggas, frankly. CLG still looking very uncomfortable around those objective fights. Never fear, they have another opportunity to practice. CLG fans, close your eyes. Here comes the Elder Drake. CLG are now in trouble properly. The game's tied back up. TSM are in this. If CLG don't get this Elder Drake, the Baron will take its toll upon their base. They will be solidly behind. Oh, Fraggas does land the head smash. Frost will back away. CLG start the Elder Drake. Not entirely comfortable with this, because they know Winston's smite wasn't burned. They know it's up. Deus and the rest of CLG will just go into this. Full committing. Phil starts off the fight very far forward. That will be an equalizer in. Oh, Tempered Fate stalls things up. Petrified Gaze will come through. Fraggas barely survives. Will go down. And the deep dive. In the meantime, TSM shoving through the base. They do not care about the Elder. They will end this game. And the #1 team at LCS Academy retains the title.